Welcome to By All Means Necessary Real Recovery Talk. My name is Marco Murillo, and I'm a grateful recovering addict. We are doing episode 15 tonight. We have a very special guest in the studio today, Noel New. How you doing, Noel?
So very grateful. Very grateful to be here.
Good to see you.
Doing well, thank you.
So if you didn't see episode 14, we're doing back to back, but Noel's here. So I am a patient of Noel's. I see him for addiction therapy. Okay. I've been a patient on and off, but pretty much more on, a defiant fucking patient for 6 3/4 years. Okay. So I just want to put that out there. So, we did a great podcast before this, and we kind of just, talked about addiction and recovery, and we really focused on trauma and, for me personally, the little boy. And if you didn't see that one, you got to check it out. It's really deep. And so, Noel and I have been talking about, a couple weeks ago about, him coming in here and what the content was going to be. And this podcast is going to be, I'm going to pose a question to Noel. All right. And so, just want to put it out there that, this is directly, relates to me, what I'm going through, what I've been going through, since I've been clean. I used for 19 years. I used cocaine. That's a fucking long time, man. And I'm coming up on, God willing, I have 6 3/4 years clean. So the question I'm going to pose to you today is this: why the fuck? All right, I want to say it like that because I really want to emphasize this. Okay, and this is I'm posing the question because this is what I'm dealing with. When you drop one drug, okay, whatever it is, whatever your DOC is, for people that don't know your drug of choice, fucking porn, gambling, sex addiction, crack, coke, fentanyl, meth, whatever you want to, whatever your DOC is, okay? And you drop it, you get clean, alcohol, you're sober, whatever you want to call what your recovery is, okay? Why did I pick up sugar? Okay, because I just want to put this out there, okay? And I really want people to understand that just because you get clean, sober, or you're in recovery doesn't mean the disease of addiction fucking vanishes from your mind. It doesn't work like that, okay? So basically, I took cocaine for 19 years and I got clean. And all of a sudden, I don't even know when it was, bro. I can't even tell you. Maybe you know better than I do because you know me better than I fucking know myself. I just started fucking eating fucking half gallons of ice cream in the fucking 2 o'clock in the morning, fucking like getting up, like eating fucking sugar, not even during the day, at night. And, I had a psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist said, hey man, it's okay because you're not using fucking cocaine. Bullshit, bro. I did this for like 6 years. I think I did it for, would you agree? Like 6 years? And it got to a point where, my insulin was above 100. October 13th of this month, my insulin was over 100. My glucose was over 100. My blood pressure was over 180. I gained 60 pounds in 6 3/4 years. Okay. I was sick as fuck.
Yes.
Sick as fuck. Like physically. I know I'm mentally sick as fuck, but why? My question to you is, I just wanted to tell everybody what the deal was, okay? Why does this happen? Like you fucking went to, I went to rehab. I went to intensive outpatient program. I got an addiction therapist. I went to fucking 270 fucking NA Narcotics Anonymous meetings in 90 days because I was fired from my fucking job because I was on cocaine. They say do 90 meetings in 90 days. That's the suggestion. I did 270 fucking meetings in 90 days. Okay. did not pick up a drug. I have not relapsed, thank God, in 6 3/4 years. This is my first go around in recovery. Okay. I have one white chip. I don't care, man. Sugar's a fucking drug. Okay. It's a drug. Don't kid yourself. All right. I don't care what people say. I'm putting this out there in this fucking podcast because I want everybody to know that as of October 13th, I might have had 2 slips. Sorry, October 18th. As of October 18th, I might have had 2 slips. I basically stopped eating sugar. Okay, and Noel can attest to this whole fucking topic. But I'm battling this, just like cocaine.
Yes.
So why did this happen?
Okay. Well, there's a variety of reasons, quote unquote. But the reality is this. So, and we did talk about it a little bit before, but I'm going to bring it back in. The disease of addiction and the inner child and the difference between the two. And so we get clean, we get sober from, for the most part, drugs and alcohol. That's usually what takes us to a bottom.
Right.
Life's completely unmanageable, dysfunctional, like say, fired from your job, maybe, overdose, suicidal, homicidal. I mean, really prison, in the worst position, right? Prison.
You're fucked. Jails, institutions, and death.
So that's why when you said your psychiatrist said, oh, hey, at least you're not, and that's what he really means is because, is it unmanageable? Absolutely. Is it as unmanageable as that? No. However, why is that okay? I mean, it's okay to a point, but, we talk about this in recovery. You come into recovery, really, first to get to, get a freedom from drugs and alcohol, from using and a daily reprieve. And then it's to be happy, joyous, and free. Why the heck would it not be happy, joyous, and free? Why do we want to freaking suffer? You know what I mean? And now we don't have a drug of choice to self-medicate with it. So we're just going to suffer. So what happens is we want to be happy, joyous, and free. And we are for a moment in early recovery.
Right,
you called it a pink cloud.
Yeah, the pink cloud. Yeah.
And then the cloud comes crashing down. It's supposed to.
Fast.
Right. Well, it depends. Some people,
for me,
faster, slower. Yeah. But it's supposed to. And then we start to self-medicate. And what are we self-medicating with? Our childhood addictions. So whatever it was in childhood. So yeah, we're making sure we do whatever it takes not to pick up that drink or drug. Mm-hmm. And we do have all these things in place for that. Mm-hmm. Amen to that. I mean, because if you pick up the cocaine, whatever, you're going to eat, you're not going to eat, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? You're going to be unmanageable to the T. So yeah, that's why we don't work on every single thing in the first year. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's okay. But after a while, if you don't look at it, the childhood addictions, which are what we call process addictions, and they're very basic. The first drug we're introduced to as children, as babies, not even a child, a baby, is sugar.
Okay.
I mean, some babies are given to, obviously we're given it in the womb through, neonatally through a mother, if she's, whatever her diet is or whatever. But that's not really the major impact. The major impact is once the baby's on their own. Mm-hmm. And if they're given sugar in, depending what stage, it's a very intense, if you ever see a baby and they make all these faces when it's in a very intense, as their taste buds are growing, the sugar is the sugar taste bud, the sweet taste bud is one of the first that develop. The last ones to develop are more towards the bitter and the sour. That's why they don't like certain things, foods that are bitter or sour. But the sweet and the salty are the main ones, and especially the sweet. So you give kids sugar, they usually react. Then once they get to be about 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, now, a lot of them are inundated. I mean, we just had the sugar, the sugar rush of the war, on October 31st. And by the way, it's never just the 31st. It was the 29th, the 30th, the 31st. You know what I mean? It's just been, it's insane. My daughter's 9 and the amount of candy she got. But again, years ago, her mom came up with this thing called the switch witch, which in the middle of the night, she's like Santa Claus.
The what?
The switch witch.
Okay.
She comes in on October 31st at night. You put the candy aside in a bowl or whatever bag.
Yeah.
And then she comes in and replaces it with a toy like Santa Claus.
That's smart.
And it ends up, you know what I mean? It magically disappears, which is good, man. You know, and I used to think that. I used to feel like, well, wait, I mean, it's wasting. Nah. You know, waste that stuff. I mean, we'll give it to some other kid. You know what I mean? I mean, you know, anyways. So sugar is usually underneath. It's usually the first thing that hits the addictive, you know, energy, the disease of, you know, this desire to feel better, this desire to escape pain, augment pleasure, you know.
And is that dopamine?
It hits that receptor.
That's
exactly.
Dopamine. Okay.
Or the pleasure center of the brain.
Okay.
And by the way, also, and this is more on the physical end, we talked about that in the last one. It's not my major bag, but the physical end, the pleasure centers in the brain, that the ones that get, they've done SPECT scans, the ones that get lit up just the same as crack cocaine, you know, the intensity of crack cocaine, is sugar and sex, sexual orgasm. So it makes sense that, again, the kid in you that's still trying to survive would go to something like that, would go to a sugar, you know, to escape that, to fill the void, right? Escape the pain. And especially since you were doing it, I know personally for you, you're doing it in the middle of the night, half asleep or fully asleep. So that's totally the inner child in you, because there's no consciousness. You're not like awake going like, I don't want cereal, you know, or ice cream. You know what I mean? It just hits you. So it's a primary addiction underneath that. It's from your childhood. Now, you mentioned the other ones also, the other process addictions. The big one is sexual addiction, especially for boys. Girls have it too. It's more of a relational sexual addiction. Okay. But boys can get, and girls can do this too. I don't want to make it like, but it's for the most part, boys get hooked on the visualization, the pornography, you know, at early, you know, tweens, you know, 10, 11, 12, early puberty. And so that's why that can come out a lot more after the drugs and alcohol are stopped. Sex and pornography, or relationships addictions where I need my boyfriend, my girlfriend, you know what I mean? Addicted to people, which creates insanity. Yeah, you hear a lot of that shit. No, and by the way, that was one of mine. I mean, relationships I got into 7 years clean. 7 years clean. And I'm completely got into the worst relationship, the most toxic in my life, because I was just so addicted to this woman, and I'm trying to fix her and help her and codependent and all this stuff. So these different things. So it was like, I was like 12 years old trying to, you know, make sure my girlfriend's okay. And you know, and I was in my mid 30s, you know, at the time. So these things are underneath. And so, it's another layer. And, you know, it's the same recovery. It's absolutely the same recovery. It's just deeper and it's more intense, as you can attest to. Yeah. Right. And that's why we don't look at it the same. We do gentler, you know what I mean? And we've discussed this. You know, you don't gentle with cocaine. Like, well, I did a little coke last night. Fucked. You know what I mean? The whole thing's fucked. You know what I mean? Come back when you're ready to like just surrender. Yeah. But so we just all or nothing. Let's stop. Let's put the kibosh. That's it. But with the process addiction, so sexual addiction, which because we do have sex as part of life, right? Eating, we need to eat, you know, we say eat to live, not live to eat. Yeah, eat to live. But, you know, obviously we eat and different process, workaholism. Like if somebody's got, and, you know, you say, well, I didn't work when I was a little kid. Well, but you were probably trying to be a perfectionist, you know, trying to make sure you got straight A's. Usually that's what the workaholic is when they were kids, they were like doing their homework and straight A, you know, for the most part. Right. Even if they didn't care about school, they cared about impressing their parents. Right. So that's another. Workaholism is a process. Gambling's one of those fringe ones because it is a process, but it's also a process. And actually, the deading of gambling is more of the process. The gambling rush is more like drug addict. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's more like, you know, getting hit. But quick. Yeah, the quick hit. But the underlying of being in that debt and that whole. Because part of gambling addiction, that's why it's so nuanced. is the deading,
Mm-hmm.
the debtor, you know, and they have a whole program, Debtors Anonymous and Gamblers Anonymous. And by the way, each one of these things have Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous, Food Addicts Anonymous, Overeaters Anonymous, Workaholics Anonymous. I mean, literally every single one's covered, and they're all based on the 12 steps. But you know, really pinpointed to the issue.
Okay.
Because they're deeper issues, these processes.
Right.
And they're coming from childhood. It's not like if you never did that as a kid, you're not going to become addicted to it in your 40. You know what I mean? It's just not. If you didn't eat sugar as a kid, you're not going to be like, oh, this Milky Way is delicious. You'd be like, I don't care about that. But you might be grinding it out 77 hours a day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, whatever. And don't even know why. You know, like, I hate my job. But, you know what I mean? But that, you know, that's where the process addictions come in from a childhood.
Okay.
And like I said, the most prevalent are food addiction, sugar being the most, obviously you can be the salty part with carbs and stuff.
Yeah.
But again, it's the little kid. What was the family dynamics? What was given to the kid that created that addiction to connect with? So usually it's food / some kind of sexual addiction and or relationship codependency addiction.
Right.
Those are usually what's underlying somewhere from drugs and alcohol.
Okay.
And and they are addressed with, you know, I like the word slip. I like the word.
We use that a lot.
I like the word relapse for if it's drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
It's a relapse.
Right.
And the relapse happens before you start, you know, you're already in relapse.
Yeah, well, the reservation.
Yes.
Right? You have the reservation first and then you relapse. Okay.
Right. So that's the drugs and alcohol. But with
it's a slip.
Process, it's a slip because you could get back on it. You know what I mean? You could get back on it, and no, you didn't lose your job and your family and this and that. Yeah. And no, you didn't gain 70 pounds in one night.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You just get back on it, but you, again, gentle with yourself, that little kid who's still scared and trying to fill the void, and firm with the addiction. Like, you know, hell no, I'm not doing this tonight. I'm make sure, because it's not like you got one little taste and you can't stop. It's a different kind of style. It's a different style. However, if you take 10 more tastes, you know, you might as well not stop. Mm-hmm. So it's a different kind of thing, this process. But you're right in the middle of it, and you are. I mean, you know, you're doing fantastic, Marco, because for years you just didn't even really address it. Or if you did, you just kind of, what am I going to do about it?
Well, yeah, well, I mean, so I don't mean to cut you off.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I'm not fucking using Coke.
Right. And again,
hey man, give me a break, you know, like
and that is
19
better.
Fucking years, right. Man, 19 years. Look at me, I'm fucking not using Coke, bro. 19 years. I'm using a little sugar. I'm doing so what? Give me a break.
Exactly. And
stupid ass mentality.
Well, I don't know about that. Well,
for me.
Well, because it was just putting off the inevitable.
Exactly.
And you ended up, like you said, getting more sick and you know, losing, you know, opportunities and things like that.
Right.
And so, but you know, that's why, and it's okay. You do. I don't like to beat stuff up, because I look at it like we're all given the opportunity until we take it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And those, sometimes they're not. There's people that die, you know what I mean, and never get the answer, never get the freedom and fulfillment. But if we're giving another one, we took it this time, there's no sense in beating up. Well, I should have done it, you know, 30 years ago, 3 years ago, whatever. It doesn't really matter. What are we doing with it today? And especially with a process addiction, what am I doing with it right now?
Right.
You know, what am I going to eat right now? You know? And, you know, and we call it, for yours, it's not one day at a time, one night at a time.
One night at a time.
Because at nighttime is when you're most triggered, and you know what I mean? And go out of that. So yeah, this is all, I look at it as all good, because we're going deeper into that. And the more that we arrest the behaviors on that, the more fulfillment you have with just regular life.
All right.
Because it's not you're not stuck in this pattern and neglecting and denying it. That's how the addiction gets you, in a food addiction, just denying it. Oh, well, whatever, at least it's not cocaine.
Yeah.
And yes, that's true until it's not, because then it's just as unmanageable when
that's where a guy that got to that point. Yeah.
Physically falling apart, and mentally and emotionally and spiritually.
Yeah. The whole deck of cards, man.
Yes.
That's what happened. The same thing as the last 6 months of using, you know.
Yes.
I felt the same way.
Yeah.
Felt the same way. And, to be quite honest with you, we've been talking about this for the past, 2-3 months now, like every week.
Yeah. Going at it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like I said earlier, it's been a month and a couple days. I've had 2 slips. Okay. The first slip I had, so just, put it out there. I've never relapsed in recovery. And that first slip, that first night I had cereal. That first night the next day, I swear to God, man, I felt like that's what I guess that's what it feels like to relapse. There was so much shame, guilt, confusion. I fucking cursed the fuck out of the little boy in me. You know what I'm saying? Hated that motherfucker. We had a conversation about this.
Yes.
Right? But with those experiences, I've been learning for the past couple of weeks now that it's all right just to, get back up and brush yourself off and understand that food is a part of life. And, it's a one day at a time thing. And for me, learning about my mind now, which is, you have to understand that when you use a drug for as long as I did, it really fucks up your thinking. And when you get clean, you're relearning how to think, how to live, how to adapt, how to talk, how to, feelings and all this kind of shit. And I feel like I feel that I'm on my mind is, I'm learning about discipline. And I'm learning that instead of taking that loss, that slip, and just going in a fucking dark hole, which I am the number one guy to do that. Like, take that loss and use it to sharpen that mind and learn from it and move on in a positive way. And this is just like the past couple of weeks, bro. You know this.
Yes.
I've dropped fucking 23 pounds in a month.
Yeah. Beautiful.
And it's not about that. It's about, like, I talked to a couple other, guys in recovery. And I said this, I put this out there that the greatest threat always comes from the inside. That's me talking here. That's the greatest fucking threat. The greatest threat always comes from the inside. And somebody messaged me on Instagram, was like, yeah, but that 90% mentality, you can sharpen that. You can sharpen that mentality and learn to live free and learn to live through discipline. Yes. I was like, and this is like the stuff that you and I talk about too, like where I went to that little boy and I said, hey man, it's okay. And that's a hard thing to do, man. Like, I don't care who you are. Like, I was pissed off, right? I'm pissed off, right? I'm trying to fucking do something like, if I quit doing coke, I can quit fucking sugar, man. That shit ain't. That's why I pose a question to you. It ain't easy, man. It's not easy. You see people, like, when people like normies, I call them normies, people that don't, like, suffer from the disease of addiction. They don't get it. Like, why would you? Why just don't do coke? Don't eat sugar in the middle of the night. What are you, fucking stupid? Like, what? What's wrong with you, right? And it's like, hey, man, look, like, there's an underlying factor that I have this trauma about abuse and also, neglect from my father. And I didn't deal with that for 30 plus years. And now I got clean and I'm dealing with that. And that little boy, like, you're teaching me. And this is why we're doing this episode of this podcast. The little boy's never going to go away.
No, it's nowhere for him to go. I mean, he is you. That's the whole thing. There's nowhere for that part of us to go. I mean, and here's the weird weird meaning the cool thing, the ironic thing is the more that we actually connect with that part of us, we integrate that part of us within us, and it's not as prevalent. It does, that part of us doesn't act out anymore. Right. It doesn't we don't do stuff like that anymore, but not because we're like forcing ourselves not to. We just end up not doing it because that part, it's like you lead, they follow. Mm-hmm. But if you don't pay attention to them, they're going to lead, you're following. And that's what's happening with the inner child that's traumatized, that hasn't worked through the trauma. But I do like the way that person told you about the discipline. Yes, the self-discipline, is an attunement to spirit, to source, to higher power.
Right.
So, it's actually ultimate freedom is through our self-disciplines. And, this is in Eastern religions, Buddhism, Taoism, Hinduism, things like that, Zen Buddhism especially, but also in our Judeo-Christian in the West, it's the ones that are spiritually devout, meaning they're disciplined to their rituals of life and how they're treating themselves with dignity, respect, integrity, compassion, honesty, honor, forgiveness. When we deal with ourselves like that, we are connected with spirit. We're connected with source and our highest self.
Right.
And so it's really important to practice that. And that could be as simple as, just how you eat and how you line that up, how you treat yourself, taking time for yourself to reflect, and connect. Whether it's 5 minutes, 20 minutes, a half hour, doesn't matter, a day. And I always tell people that's the key thing, especially in the morning, either in the morning or before you go to bed, is to have these connections, meditation / contemplation / just, connecting with that child inside of you.
And saying what?
Well, really first it's just connecting. How, connecting. How is that, getting that connection of how does that kid feel?
Right.
And then it's, it's like literally having a conversation with a kid. How are you doing? More than likely, they're going to say fine, whatever. You know what I mean? They're not going to be like, oh, well, last night I went, Now they do talk like that, but they have to feel really comfortable, really safe, and really at ease. And more than likely, the kid inside of you is not going to feel that.
Right.
Because he doesn't feel like that. He never has.
Oh.
So, but he will eventually. You just got to stay consistent and persistent and, just get back on the horse. That's the discipline. Just get back on the horse. Just keep going. You slip off, climb back on it. So it's really important. So one of the techniques that has worked for me personally, and I've used this with people over the years, is the journaling, the dialogue with the inner kid, and it's an opposite hand.
Right.
So if you're right-handed, it would be writing with your left. Obviously, if you're left-handed, writing with your right. I'm not sure what it would mean for ambidextrous, but I know most people have obviously a dominant hand.
Right.
And if you're like me, it's really dominant. So what happens is that you start journaling and just take a sheet and notebook paper, and you just start writing free flow with your regular hand. I'll use for purposes of me right-handed. Mm-hmm. And you just start, and then you start asking questions. Hey, how you doing? How you doing, Noel? If you had a nickname as a kid, call that part of you the nickname.
Okay.
And, like if you're Michael and you go by Michael, maybe you're called Mikey. How you doing, Mikey? Whatever the case may be, like really try to connect with it. It's uncomfortable at first, but really connect with that part of you. And then you take the pen, put it in the other hand, and just go lefty with it, or whatever in my case. And I'm telling you, when you write in the other hand, it's like you're in second grade or first grade, and you don't try to, it's just everything is weird, and you just start writing, and then the energy comes out. The energy from that time of you comes out literally on the paper. And it's really remarkable. It really is. And so, and then you just allow that energy to come up. It's not, what happens is it starts to integrate inside of you as it's happening. So, there's a witness in you, is watching and okay, well, that part of me is saying that, and you can judge it and criticize and all that. I'd recommend don't do that. Just be in that writing with your left hand and feeling uncomfortable and doing a backward S and putting an I instead of an E, except after C, doing all these things that don't freaking matter. And what happens is the energy of that kid comes into your consciousness. And so then you just, dialogue, put it back in your right. Oh, so how you doing?
Yeah.
And do it for 5 minutes, eventually you might do it for 10, 15, 20. And I try to tell people there's 2 times to really do these type of exercises that are most potent. In the morning, right when you wake up, as soon as possible, or right in the evening, right before you go to bed, like closest to bed as possible.
Okay.
Like, it's not like, go to bed, do this, and then do, 30 other things. No, as close as possible before sleep and right after awake. You can do both for a while, but either one, whatever works for you, the better in the schedule. And that really connects with that part of you. And if it's in the morning, takes it through the day.
Right.
If it's at night, brings it into your dream state and your dream consciousness, which will then work through some stuff as well in your unconscious state, which is all that dreams are, making the unconscious conscious. So yeah, that's a really a very important tool that you can use to like literally practice connecting with that inner child.
Right.
And over the years I did that, and, actually rage came out. Really? Because when I was a kid, I was just shut down. I wasn't going to let anybody get me angry or this or that. So I just said, fine, whatever, mumble. But if you give that kid enough attention, eventually they will yell, scream, and then more than likely cry, because that's what kids do. And they're supposed to, by the way. And again, as men, and you said this before, I've never cried in front of me neither, until I let myself just be a human. And crying is part of being human.
No, man. Yeah.
And there's a time and a place for everything, but it's the most potent energy I've ever had, to be a grown man, crying over something that really hurts.
Yeah.
Because again, as men,
liberating.
Yeah, as men, we don't want like boys to cry over everything. You know what I mean? Come on, that's enough. But or girls, but but if we're not allowed to cry over anything, like anything, then that we're not being done a service, because we're not being human, and it's going to sublimate somewhere else. Anger issues, depression, anxiety, addictions, and all this kind of stuff. So to be able to feel, it is quite liberating to just let it out like a kid would and does. Right. And so when you start to do these kind of connections with inner child, that stuff starts to come up, and the escape mechanisms start to dwindle. Yeah. You know what I mean? Less and less. Yep. Yeah, man. So, and then the other piece, you said the word shame. So usually, especially as addicts, our kids inside of us are just riddled with shame. That's the most thing. And again, and by the way, I said this in the last episode, part of the abuse that's most potent and poignant in a kid is the humiliation. And to feel humiliated on top of being hurt, that defeat is what shame is. And to hold that, and as men, we hold that. And that's why we got all kinds of fucked up behaviors and thoughts and patterns. And like anybody that does anything that's, where it takes a life of its own, is trying to escape shame. That's how potent shame is. Right. And when I said anybody, I just, I was thinking of Jeffrey Dahmer, whatever. Serial killer. Obviously it's to the nth degree. And then there's a circuit loose where they're able to be, psychotic, That's taking it to that level. But initially the little boy was full of shame. Right. Just full of shame. And he was just trying to overcome it. Right. And so in his overcoming his shame, creating whatever. Thank God for the most of us, we don't do that stuff, but we still do what you're doing. What I've done is just feel humiliated and shameful, and then overcompensate with our manlyhood, masculine, whatever. And then, and then find that defeats us eventually. We're sitting there with nothing, just angry. By the way, it's what your father did. Right. Overcompensate for his own shame. You know what I mean? Until it left him, with nothing. Right. Because that's what we do as men, until we're able to just face the shame, face the humiliation, turn it from humiliation to humility. Yeah. Which is a spiritual principle of the program. Step 7, it's the spiritual principle behind, step 7, which is, remind me, step 7 is, I just went blank. It's a spiritual principle. It'll come to me, and I'll say it out loud. But made a list of all persons became okay. 7. Humbly ask God to remove our shortcomings. I knew it comes. The word humbly is in there. So because in 6, we say we're ready to let them go, remove them. 7, we ask that great higher power, and that turns into humility. And in humility, I'm no better than, no worse than any other human being on this planet. Literally, no better than the worst human being, doing terrible things. No worse than the best human being, spiritual giant. We're all human. Now, it's our behaviors then, and the content of our character create how people think of us and how we're treated and we treat others. But as a human being, the humility is the leveling.
Right.
And when I'm no greater than, no worse than anybody, there's nothing to be ashamed of. I'm and then I can act accordingly. And, again, we act with the spiritual principles of honesty and trust, and faith, hope and faith. And, and I'm going blank with all my things, man. I used to have this whole thing down. But when we start living with that, integrity, that's my favorite one. Courage, integrity. Step 4 is courage. Step 5 is integrity. Integrity is so important. I do as I think, as I say, as I feel. And I share that with, out from me. And when I have that as a grown man, integrity, there's nothing to fear. There's nothing to be ashamed of. Even if I mess up, I'm making amends. Step 10. So it's all in the steps. It's all in the spiritual principles. But when we start working with this inner child and we get another level of surrender, we get humbled. At first, it'll feel like humiliated. And that's why we want to fight and kill and run and hide and fight or flight. But when we get humbled, that's when we have another layer of surrender. And that's where the magic happens. The miracle happens.
Right.
And we go to that next level. And that's when we bring the kid along with us this time. Mm-hmm. Instead of leaving him there in the closet with the addict going like, well, just don't use.
Yeah.
Don't use, motherfucker. And he's like, he's not going to until he's like, he can't handle it anymore. And then he starts calling on the addict.
Yeah. Combined forces.
Right. And so what's a little kid going to call on? Cocaine or sugar? And so that's why, that's where it just comes out of nowhere. And you're like, what the fuck just happened? Because it just happened. So again, gentle with that little kid, firm, self-disciplines with the behaviors, and get the sugar out. And by the way, I don't know when that was, a week or 2 ago, and you had when you had the 2 nights.
Yeah, it was like a week ago, and then 2, and then like a week and a week.
Yeah, and it hadn't happened since.
Just not, yeah.
One night at a time.
One night at a time.
So that's the whole point, is that's why you can do it with this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it would be harder to say, well, I just had 2 nights of cocaine and I haven't used it.
Fuck.
But you can do that with sugar because you've got all of your, empowerments, all of your program, tools for the top layer.
Right.
You got those sound. You make sure of it. And then now we can go low. We can go deeper.
Yeah. Well, you basically answered that one question I had. So I feel like, I feel like it's another daily process when you are, when you have the disease of addiction, and you could choose to look at it and try to handle it and try to cope with it and try to use all these different techniques and things like that to deal with it on a daily basis. However, I feel like if we didn't have our relationship, I'd be lost, because for me, like I always preface this. For me, you don't learn this stuff in the rooms. I don't. Okay. So I just want to say that, there's things that there's things that you totally learn in the rooms about the 12 steps and about meetings and about surrendering and about finding a higher power in your spirituality and all these different things, which is so fucking helpful. However, we're talking about the big keyword, trauma. And for me, dealing, first of all, acknowledging, I hate that word, acknowledging the fact about the trauma once I got clean is huge. And I hate that word. So acknowledging the fact that you have to understand that you have trauma, and you have to use these tools in the way that you and I talk in our sessions is huge. And that's why I tell people, and I have this platform that I can say, look, if you are struggling, with some of the things that, we talk about on these episodes that you or hear people that talk about. This is episode, what are we at? So before this was 14. Okay. So this is episode 15, episode 14, you came on, and I just wanted to tell people that, without your help, as much as like a sponsor, I wouldn't be here. And that's the fucking truth. So if you're, listening to this episode and, you're going through something in terms of like mental health, or you have the disease of addiction, or you're in recovery, or you are actually in active addiction, or you're watching this on YouTube, this video, and or if you know somebody, reach out. And why don't you give all your information? We're about to wrap up. Let everybody know where they can contact you, or your social media and stuff like that, because I just want to say that this man has fucking helped me tremendously, and I wouldn't be able to be here and be clean and be a productive member of society and be a great husband and a good father if I didn't do the work with you and you weren't a part of my journey. So.
And I appreciate that, Marco. And I am excited to be here because I remember when you told me, you're like, I'm going to do this podcast. You know what I mean? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Because you have this natural ability to have that honesty come through you, and then help others to do it as well. And then to just be, very, you call it real recovery talk, just be real.
Right. Thanks.
And that's really important. So, because there's the level of honesty and integrity. Mm-hmm. And so, so I have a practice here in Palm Beach County. So I'm a licensed mental health counselor, and I see people individually. And I also have it where I coach people all over the continent, all over the country, all over the world. And I do that by Zoom or FaceTime, but I also can see people locally by Zoom or FaceTime. But you can find me on noelneu.com. So it's NOELNEU.com. That's NOELNEU. And so my website has everything, content in there. It's got blogs and my information and my music that I do, which I call music medicine, to help people. And I give reasons on how that helps people. But you can do a free consultation, half hour, a Zoom call, and just see if it's a fit or what I can do to help. And so noelneu.com, or you can find me on Instagram, the Noel Neu, TheNoelNeu. And in there, I also have content that's
powerful. The Instagram is powerful. Sorry, bro.
I appreciate
powerful. Powerful because I forget shit, and then you fucking bam, it's right there.
So I put these little. I do talks like this and record them, and then put the little reels, the tidbits, in a minute or less. I call wisdom in a minute. Just sometimes they're a little bit longer talks. So there's more information, content, usable content you can use on that. And I'm creating a course, and my course is called Face Your Fears. And basically, we all live under these underlying fears. And what we were talking about today, just now, is, underlying fears. Mm-hmm. The fear of, I'm blaming myself or others. I'm feeling worried about myself. What's going to happen? What's not going to happen again? Like what we do as kids. I'm judging myself very harshly, as you did, with the little kid inside of you, or judging others very critically. Resentments. I hate myself. I hate others. Right. These underlying fears, what we can do to help heal them, along with if we're in recovery, this is kind of taking it to another layer or level. We face them. Forgiveness, acceptance, compassion, empathy. We face them. And I have detailed little exercises and stuff to use. And it's over 3 hours of information that'll be coming out in January. And that'll also be on my website, and find it on Instagram and stuff like that. How to face face your fears.
Right.
And, but my biggest thing is we talked about it last time. I want to help people get through crisis, and I want to help them to feel better, moving forward. My ultimate goal is to help people to live a life of freedom and fulfillment.
Right.
And so, once we get through the crisis, now what? Well, sometimes there's another layer. Obviously, a lot of times there are. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's just, how do I create the new layer? How do I create what I want? Like, how do I create the life I want to live? And that's been my, personal study for the last 20 plus years, really hardcore since about 2006 or 7, where I've just, really wanted to create a life that I wanted to live. And so letting go, and that coincided with my last, relapse underneath, because I never relapsed on drugs and alcohol, but with, the relationship, sexual addiction, all that, hit my bottom, 7 years clean. And then I'm like, okay, enough of the crises, enough of acting like that in any way. Boundaries, love, connection, and let's go for it. Let's live this life and create a life beyond our wildest dreams.
Right.
And, and that's all we can do, is that one day at a time, and feel. And sometimes we feel bad and fall down and pick ourselves back up, and have others that can support us.
Yes.
And create that, self-support and supportive of others and the higher power, and life is good.
Yeah.
That's what I want.
Right on, man. Anything else you good with that?
Yeah, no, I'm good with that. I will say this, we didn't talk about this a lot, but yeah, please have me on whenever you want. Cause I mean, there's all these kind of, subjects we can hit, but, it really is important to, be kind with yourself, even if you don't like yourself, because the reality is, if we're not kind to ourselves, what happens is that life is miserable.
Yeah.
I mean, it just is. I mean, we can be tough. Listen, kind doesn't mean, be weak or less. I mean, I always said that, people mistake kindness for weakness. Kindness is strength, man. Kindness is empowerment. Kindness is, I don't roll over. I don't, eat crap. I don't eat shit. You know what I mean? I face my fears, but I do it with compassion and consideration and kindness for myself.
Right.
So if I do that with me, I'm going to do that with you.
Exactly.
And when the world becomes more like that, one interaction at a time, all this fear and anxiety that we're creating, the world's creating, I mean, it's just, it's very intense right now, starts to calm down, and I try to follow on other people that, have that type of reaction on social media and stuff like that. And a real aside, the difference between kind and nice. So going back to this kind of codependent stuff, and I have a whole thing on that, if we ever want to go into that. The difference in kind and nice. Nice is kind of, I have to be nice. I have to put it on.
Right.
Kind is, I just am kind.
Yeah.
It's a state of being. You know what I mean? And so it's okay. Nice is a good step in the direction, but then the going beyond nice is to be kind. And when we're kind with ourselves and others, again, it's life is good. It's places. It's actually a very good time to be alive.
Most definitely. All right, man. Thank you so much. Yeah, definitely. We're gonna come back and do some more shit, man.
I'm excited.
We're gonna talk about come back and talk about the psych meds.
Yes.
Let's talk about that one, man.
Let's open that up. Yes.
That's fucking bullshit.
Yeah.
All right. So just want to put it out there that I greatly appreciate everyone who's been checking out the, listening to the podcast and also watching the videos on YouTube. People have been reaching out to me through Instagram or leaving comments on the YouTube channel, and I greatly appreciate that. We've had a lot of people that looking for suggestions, and that's the whole mission of why I started to do this, to really give what was freely given to me, you know. And it's getting there. So I appreciate that. You know, you could, you know, thank you for subscribing to the YouTube channel, dropping a comment. You know, if you know of somebody that is struggling in active addiction, or they're struggling in recovery, or they just, you know, they're just struggling at all with some mental health, or if you are as well too, or if you know, if you have a family member or friend that needs some help, and you just, you know, want a suggestion or advice or something like that, or if you've heard one of the, you know, some content on the episode that you want to talk about, you can definitely reach out to me. You can email me at BAMN realrecoverytalk@gmail.com. Thanks a lot for tuning in. I really appreciate it, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, bro. Thank you very much.